Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Ridge Community Church podcast. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors at the Ridge, and our vision is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. So we want to bring you something hopeful and helpful for your everyday life, whether you've been following Jesus for a while or you're still trying to figure out exactly what you do believe about God. Now, you'll find on this podcast things that'll help with conversations about marriage and parenting and mental health and work, practical things to help you in your faith journey, and a lot more. So whether you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app or you're watching on YouTube, be sure to follow and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the hopeful and helpful conversations. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Ridge Podcast. Today we've got a really fun episode for you. I have a conversation with Evan Schwartz where we talk about week 1 of At the Movies. Our At the Movies series just kicked off last weekend. If you haven't heard of it yet, please check out the description where we've got a link to our website, which will tell you everything you need to know about At the Movies. But basically, we take movie clips, we put it together with moments of teaching that really help illustrate some core life truths and truths that we can pull out of the Bible to learn some lessons that God has for us and how we can live a life that's more led by Jesus. It's really awesome. It's super fun. It really is. It has some really practical stuff about impacting your life, and I encourage you to check it out. But we got to dive into week 1 and some key principles that we can pull from it, how we can apply them to our lives. And it's just a fun conversation. So I hope you'll check out and enjoy this conversation that I got to have with Evan. Well, hey, Evan, thanks for coming on to the Ridge Podcast.
What's up? Good to be back. John, how are you?
Good, man. We just wrapped up week 1 of At the Movies.
Indeed, we did.
Maybe I can get your starting thoughts. How do you feel about At the Movies? I feel like it's kind of obligated. It's kind of a trick question, right? Because I feel like you kind of have to be like, I love At the Movies, but
kind of the same as the trick question that was in all of our services and campuses and online. That was like, here's some movie trivia. Okay, last question. What's the first movie that we're going to be showing you? In the moment of silence, then it's like, we're not going to tell you that. We're not going to tell you that.
Exactly. Yep.
So I don't know if everyone knows this. When Hoosiers landed on the list, the feeling that welled up in my childlike Midwest basketball-loving heart was Hoosiers has been for a long time one of my top 2 movies. I love the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Top 2 for sure.
So was it almost like challenging to watch just clips of it? Because I feel like that's one of the things, like if you have like a movie for At the Movies that you just absolutely love, like part of the thing that happens is like, you're like, wait, I want to see more. Not to disparage the speaker that's talking at all, but I feel like it's always like, oh, I want to see the next scene too,
It was like, Mark, I love that you're teaching about Jesus, but I just want to watch the movie, man.
Yeah.
Not entirely true. No. We need to pull the spiritual truths out of these stories. No, there's some really amazing scenes that are missing out of the stories that we told, because of course we're not telling the whole story. Yeah. We're telling like portions of the story and pulling, spiritual truths out of there. And even like I know there's several people that I've talked to that have said, after we see what the movie is in service or online, we're going to go watch the whole thing. So now you kind of see it through a different lens. You have new eyes to watch it. And even when you watch the whole movie of Hoosiers, there are the long version, because I've got the director's cut DVD or whatever, I don't know, special edition DVD.
Right.
And it has like the director's longer version that has like scenes that aren't even in the typical theatrical version that you'll stream somewhere. Because there's some like missing parts in the movie. You're like, wait a second, but one of the players who got kicked out in the first practice is back. When did he come back? And that's in the longer director's cut. So
yeah, you got all the spoilers. I wonder, that makes me wonder, is there a director's cut of our version?
I don't know.
All the little pieces that Mark just really tried to work in, some extra stories. He had a few more alliterations and acronyms that he wanted to throw in there, but just couldn't quite find it.
Yeah, maybe so. I was going to say on the filming and editing side of things for our team, we do not have the capacity for a director's cut. But for the writing process, maybe Mark originally this was going to be about a 60-minute at the movies, clips, and I can guarantee for the speakers as they select a movie because of the themes they want to talk about, it's got to be really hard for them to cut down. Yeah. How can I make this like where you can actually take it in and it not be a marathon,
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like one of the things with At the Movies is that, because we're watching a movie that covers like so many different pieces and there's so many, I think, really cool, premises that we can pull out. Right. And so if you're unfamiliar, maybe it's your first time, you didn't catch At the Movies, you've never heard about the movies before. Just a brief overview is At the Movies. What we do is we take, essentially over a 5-week series, we take one movie each week and we pull out clips and we use those clips essentially to show examples of some truths that we find, mentioned in the Bible. And, part of doing that means that we can cover a lot of different topics in kind of a creative way that might connect with somebody a little bit differently than a normal message. I know I love movies. I know you're a big movie guy as well. And I mean, you're a big sports guy too. Same here. And so to have both those things kind of come together in Hoosiers this last week is really cool. I do think that, one of and we can kind of go through a couple of those things, but when you're watching an At the Movies message, you're catching one, and you're trying to pull stuff out because I know that we do a secret showing as a staff, where you get to kind of just watch it and take it in. And I'm sure somebody on the team makes popcorn. Are you you hear these different, points being shared? Do you latch onto one specifically, or what does it look like when you're watching it and enjoying it?
Yeah, for me, as a person who loves stories, I love being a storyteller. I would say every story is probably going to have an A portion, a B portion, a C portion. It's like the typical story format of climactic ending and, right. The general story and that kind of stuff. And
you're not saying A in terms of quality, you're saying A in terms of precedence and focus, right?
Yeah. And so there's an A story, there's always going to be a B story. You have to have things that you can't be full speed ahead on an A story the whole time. There's going to be some other things asking for your attention. It's kind of tough for me to focus on 2 or 3 different ideas that you can pull out of a story, because most stories have that one big element to them that is so easy to work with. But then, of course, when you get to those B parts of the story, the C parts of the story, you can pull out those other themes. So, for instance, I would say a theme of a movie for Apollo 13. Incredible classic 90s movie based on a true story, somewhat fairly historically accurate. The medium of that story is the journey back home. That's what you would call that. And there's hundreds and hundreds of movies that are the journey back home. And so, you just have to kind of pull the themes that you want to. And maybe for me, if I were doing it, which no one wants me teaching anything anywhere at any time, I would probably focus almost entirely on one theme and then pull one little thing out of there that would be maybe a side theme. Did you catch that one thing? Let me take a quick pit stop here and talk about this for a minute. But I don't think I'm going to be asked anytime soon to do an At the Movies.
Yeah, all those students that you're a substitute teacher for are really interested in hearing that nobody ever wants to have you teach. Okay,
I will tell you. All right, leave the substitute thing alone. I was just going to say, I've not taught any of the course material. I just oversee, are we continuing down the track?
Right. You're the play the video sub? Is that what you are? Okay. So let's dive into some of the points that we got to hear from this last weekend, and hopefully as you're hearing this and you haven't been able to join at the movies, I'll share a little bit more about how you can find them either digitally or in person. We'd love to have you join us, and we got free popcorn and the whole, which popcorn and coffee I think is the most appropriately rated combo out there. Okay, so anyway, here's a few of the takeaways from this last weekend. I think one of the big ones was really this premise that's built into the heart of Hoosiers. And I think a lot of really sports movies to start with, whenever there's a coach who comes in, there's this tension between really what the players want to do and what the coach is hoping to accomplish as part of this bigger thing, because the coach has this bigger vision and a plan for how to arrive at this goal that's bigger than just one person. And I think Mark really appropriately connected that with our view of faith, really, and our view of following God's direction for our life, where, each of us has our direction or bend that we go to that's not always in line with what God wants for our lives. And that can be in big, huge things. And that could also be in little, small things like, God really wanted me to, faithfully do that thing. And I didn't. And so I'm curious, as you were hearing that, why do you think it is that we struggle so much to really follow what God is, the direction that He's leading, versus what, our own desires are?
Yeah, I did like the things that Mark had to say about that, especially alongside the scene where, it's the first practice and he's kicked a couple of the kids out and now the team is really small. And this is small town Indiana basketball. So like the sheriff and the local barber and a couple other guys come in. We didn't get to see this full scene, but what we did see was them coming into the practice and saying like, hey, we hear you got some weird ways of coaching up in here. And that makes me think, alongside what Mark was talking about, of just the different voices that we're always listening to every single day. And I think it's even more difficult when those voices actually even sound like a good idea, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the difference for us is to, when we are following Jesus, is to find out, I don't want to find out what a good option is for me in difficult or small decisions. Yeah. I want to find what the best thing is for me. So as we're listening to like the different voices, whether that be, the songs we listen to, the news we watch, the friends that we listen to, all these different voices are influencing our decision making. But does Jesus have a voice in those things? Like when you think about your big decisions and maybe you haven't like put time into praying, is it just talking to God, or are we like listening and asking like, God, will you show me what is best? Not just what is good, because there's lots of good ideas when it comes to our decision making and following Jesus in everything that we do. But what's the best choice as it pertains to following Jesus?
Yeah. And I think that comes from not like an element of paralysis of like, I'm overthinking this thing too much and that side of things. I think there's an appropriate amount of weight to give that, right? Where you're thinking through like, and not in a fearful way of like, I really don't, like, I'm afraid to make a choice or do something because it might not be what God wants for me. But really, like you're saying, a prayerful, step back and say, what is the best choice? Where is God leading me? Because you're right, that is the best choice. And I think, I can just name off some really quick hitting. If that's something right now that you're hearing and you're like, that sounds great, Evan and John, how in the world do I do that? I think, and feel free to share as well, but I mean, the first three things that come to my mind. Hey, what does the Bible say about that? Have you taken some time to read what the Bible says on that topic and that decision? And sometimes it will give you pretty good clarity right away. And sometimes, it'll just kind of give you principles that doesn't outline that exact situation, but may give you some general wisdom that you need some other help on. And then you're going to, I think, like you already mentioned, you're praying. You're asking God to direct your time reading the Bible. You're asking God to open the right pathways, to pull on your heart in a way that leads you to that thing, right? So if you feel this big tug that says, man, I just heard that student ministry could really use some people to invest in the lives of middle schoolers. I'm feeling that pull, but God probably doesn't want me to do that, right? It's like, well, if you're feeling that pull and God's directing you that way, maybe he is calling you. And then having some close friends that really connect with you and know who you are and can speak into that. Is that do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you're spot on the friends. Because you're, the people that you talk with the most are kind of like your just daily sounding board. Like you're, gonna go to some depth with the people that you're discussing things with regularly. So maybe that's your family, your spouse, your coworkers, or your friends. You hang out with your friends a lot. And what kinds of voices are those that you're listening to? Like in how you speak and the voices that you're listening to, you'll want to be able to hear elements of what the Bible calls the fruit of the Spirit. So are you hearing things that reflect love and joy and peace, and patience and self-control? Or are you hearing voices that further break down your spirit and make it worse than when you walked into the conversation? Like, nobody needs more gasoline added to a fire. So, what are your conversations feeding? What are they fueling? Is it something good or is it something harmful? And that's for everybody to decipher. Like, those can be difficult to see. But do your conversations with people, do you mutually build each other up, or is there some breaking down that goes on? So it may not be the right person to talk, spiritual matters with, if they don't have a similar worldview that you do, that you've given your life to Jesus, you're regularly trying your best to honor your relationship with Jesus in your daily actions. Like if you're regularly having a sounding board with other people that don't reflect that same lifestyle, by all means, please do. We're called to be around people that don't look like us, don't act like us. Yeah. But there has to be a mix of both. When we're kind of stuck in that, I don't know what to do. Like, what's the right decision here?
Yeah. Yeah, like are they going to be providing a perspective that aligns with the things that you want to align with, right? So it might be challenging to get the opinion of, hey, what is this piece of, when Jesus says this in the Bible, do you think this applies to my situation this way or this way? And if they're like, well, I've never read the Bible before, like that might not be the person to ask about that interpretation, Obviously it's a very simplified example. And I love the reiteration that having close friends that can point you in that direction does not mean having no friends that aren't in different places in their faith. So, I think that kind of builds into the next topic that Mark mentioned, which is this idea of the loneliness of following Jesus. And that probably phrasing is probably like, that's not a very helpful phrasing. I don't think that is probably exactly how Mark would iterate it. But really it's the concept of, am I the only one following Jesus right now? Because I am sure that there are people listening that, they don't really have close friends or maybe even family. Maybe they're the only person in their family that follows Jesus. And I imagine trying to follow and make decisions that help you, we'd say live, look, and love like Jesus is substantially more difficult when you have a lot of voices that are saying something that is different than what Jesus might say in that topic. You have any thoughts for that person?
Yeah. Mark mentioned the scripture, narrow is the road and narrow is the gate. And I think it does go back to kind of like what we've talked about, that we do have so many things begging for our attention daily. And it is not easy to regularly be able to make every single decision that would honor Jesus. And it is one thing, we talk about our relationships. It's one thing. It's easy to just stop watching the news that just fills you up with anxiety. I say it's easy. I say that in the sense that there's a remote. You can turn it off. You can decide which songs you're going to listen to. You can do a little bit better job, more easily on the things that you take in from outside sources. But when it comes to your relationships, they're not like a turnkey kind of thing. That's not a light switch. You're not going to ditch a relationship on the quick, just because you've decided, this doesn't, bring out the best in me. We stay in relationships because we crave being together with people. We're made for it. Like Jesus put that in us. We're designed that way, to be in community with other people. And so if that road is narrow, if that gate is narrow, I think it just means we have to be very careful about who we decide to walk with us if the road is very narrow. And so, if you do have those relationships that are more consistently breaking you down than they are building you up, and spend some time in prayer on that. And if you feel like God is calling you to be like a light in a dark place, then consistently ask for the ability to be strong in that and not let it affect your faith. But if you sense that God is telling you that you've got dead weight to get rid of, it can feel really lonely, and it can suck to ditch somebody that might be harmful for you, but you love them. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And I think that's it's a very nuanced thing, right? And I would suggest before you do that, maybe get some counsel from somebody that you trust on that friendship and that relationship, because you also don't want to, you want to do that appropriately. And I think you said it well of weighing and measuring if that's a relationship that's going to be helpful in your life or hurtful. So, and I'll just say real quick, if you're trying to find and make some friendships and connect with some people who follow Jesus, I think two great avenues to do this. And I'm not just saying this because I am part of a church, but I do think that there are two places in churches that really help build these types of relationships. One of them is serving with other people. I remember I had one of my college leaders in church went on this trip, and he said, the team that sweats together grows together. And if you're serving alongside somebody, you just build relationships with them. It just happens. And in a really, I think, organic way that I think can make it less intimidating than other settings. And the second thing is, right now we're in the summer. We've got summer activity groups. If you want to go join a summer activity group, you can find that in the show notes, and get plugged in and just do a hang out with some people, who are on the faith journey with you. And, I just can't recommend that enough. So give those a try.
I concur with both.
Boom. Hey, one of the I don't know if this is a B plot or a C plot, but there's this principle of redemption throughout the movie of Hoosiers. As you take somebody who made this big mistake in coaching and see how he gets redemption from it. And I think Mark did a really good job of sharing the gratitude we feel when we reflect on how we've experienced that redemption in our life. Because the reality is, if you follow Jesus, you've experienced that redemption over and over and over again, whether you're willing to kind of admit it to yourself or not. And and if you're not thinking about that, it makes the next part of what he shared really hard, which is this idea of gratitude about the redemption, gratitude about what Jesus has done for you. And at the risk of over monologuing here, I think that one of the really challenging pieces of following Jesus is the farther you get from that time of where you weren't, the harder it is to remember exactly what God has done for you. And so when you hear, thank Jesus for what he's done, if that's become just like lip service, if that's become just a thing you hear from time to time, take some time to reflect on that. I know it's easy for it to happen to me where it's like, oh yeah, Jesus did that for me. And then if I take a second and I reflect, usually during musical worship, during a church service, honestly, is probably when this happens the most for me, of being like, oh yeah, God really saved me. And the gratitude that comes from that, I think, really sets the stage for a lot of the stuff we go through in life.
I agree. I think, as I have conversations with other people and you get to hear other people's stories, you start to see a trend of people getting to what I think I would call, like for me in my personal faith, like the root of your faith, which is I shouldn't be, but by some miracle I am. Yeah. And it's really incredible to hear people's stories and get that sense from them as they tell you their story. And just realizing the life-saving power and grace that is available from Jesus that you cannot get anywhere else. There will be momentary things that will give you joy and make you feel like you've arrived, but they fall far short of what Jesus has truly done for us in our lives. And I'm with you on the music side of things. Like it's one inside a room, and that's where it captures me a lot. And then on stage when I'm leading, you'll notice when I get to that place when I stop singing, because it's just like, I need to take a moment here. Okay. That's usually the time when that's taking place. But what's great about the movie, you mentioned this coach who is given a second chance, because, and you think about this in modern context, let alone the context of the 50s, had punched one of his players. Like that is a coaching death sentence. You're never going to get another chance. Yeah. But because it was the 50s and news didn't travel a ton, he went to a place where people didn't know, and he got an opportunity. And there's actually a B story within this movie. You got to see him just a little bit in the clips that we saw, but if you watch the full movie, I think it's the only person in this movie who was either nominated for an award or won the award. I can't remember which one. But Dennis Hopper's character experiences the same thing. He is a lost alcoholic dad of one of the kids on the basketball team. And he ends up in the hospital due to his addiction. And he wants nothing to do with figuring out how to get out of that, but has someone in his life, and that's the coach, who has experienced this for himself in the midst of it, and for a reason that is just Jesus spilling out of you, comes alongside this guy and sees that he has this incredible basketball brain and says, let's go through this journey together. and his story in that movie is just incredible. So absolutely go watch the rest of the movie. That theme that Mark pulled out, that is just, there is nothing like the redemption that Jesus offers to us, and then functioning in life from a place of gratitude that says, I shouldn't be, but for some reason only known to God, I am. Allows you to look at life through a completely different lens. And it probably affects your everyday decisions when you go through a life full of gratitude that Jesus has saved you from what you used to be.
Yeah, and I think that, there's varying degrees of ease of that for people. And I really like what you said in terms of, like, you're talking to people and hearing their stories. And I don't know, I would just encourage you, if you're having a hard time just connecting with that theme of gratitude for your life because of redemption, it's just, maybe you started following Jesus when you were younger, maybe, I don't know what your story is, but here's some people's stories, and hear them for the stories themselves, and then reflect, I think, on, hey, what did this look like for me? Maybe I see some of my own story in their story. Oh, that's how I would have, that's what would have happened if I hadn't found Jesus when I did, or whatever that version looks like for you. Because I do think that keeping that at the forefront really does change this desire that we have to live a life like Jesus, and really this desire that, man, we want other people to experience that redemption too. And it's really hard, I think, to want somebody to find Jesus when you forget just how much Jesus has done for you. And you will. In my experience, I've never met somebody that hasn't had that tension of if you don't keep it in your mind, if you don't think about it, you just naturally drift. And not to say you lose following Jesus, but I do think you can lose some of the heartbeat. As we wrap this up, man, is there any closing thoughts you have from the movie from week 1?
Go watch the rest of the movie. And if you have access to watch the extended director's cut, please do. Wow. Yeah. Maybe it's in the $5 bin at Walmart. I don't know. It's right there. Just after church, go get it.
Yeah. It's a Greenfield specific reference, but
yes,
we appreciate you at Creek Franklin Online.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got your back, Evan.
You will not find that DVD at IKEA. If you go next door, Oak Creek Franklin. The only thing I would just continue to just urge people to be challenged by is what we talked about online and in our services, which is, in the summer we have all these different things that we can do. There's nothing like, if you live in Wisconsin, nothing like Wisconsin summer. Wisconsin summer is awesome. There's so many great things to be doing right now. But what we urge people to consider is considering to just commit to 5 weeks. And being a part of these stories, experiencing them in community, and taking some of these life lessons that we can pull from them, that we pull from the Bible, and how that might change the trajectory of the end of your summer and going into the fall, like allowing these spiritual truths to speak into our lives. So I just want to double down on that. If you were here this last weekend and you heard people just call you into this challenge to come for 5 straight weeks and be a part of these stories and community, do it. And just see how Jesus might bless that effort, and just saying, you know what, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of what God is doing here right now. And just asking God to move in that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. That's so good. So if you're listening right now, you don't know about as much about At the Movies, go to theridgecc.com/atthemovies. You'll get all the details that you need to come join us in person, or the special times that we have showings online, because we can't have it on demand in YouTube. We'll have links to join a summer group, to join a serve team if you'd like to. Yeah. So thank you so much, Evan. Thanks for coming on to the podcast and chat with me about this. And to all of you listening, please like and subscribe so that you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations.